The screech of tires tore through the night like a verdict from a hung jury, metal crumpling against metal in a symphony of chaos that drowned out my scream. Benjamin's head snapped back against the headrest. His fingers, those precise, ink-stained fingers that had signed away fortunes, clutching the steering wheel as blood trickled from his temple, warm and accusing. "Colin," he gasped, his voice a ragged whisper that cut deeper than any cross-examination. "Why didn't you tell me it was all a lie?" I slammed the car door on that godforsaken Manhattan memory 3 years ago, but it kept chasing me down rain-soaked alleys and fluorescent-lit conference rooms. A ghost in a Brooks Brothers suit. Back then, I was fresh out of Fordham Law, 24 and hungry, with a backpack full of student loans and a chip on my shoulder the size of the Brooklyn Bridge. New York chewed up dreamers like me and spat out husks, but I had a plan. Infiltrate the elite, climb the ladder, and bury the skeletons my family had left me. That's how I landed at Hargrove & Associates, a powerhouse firm in Midtown where the air smelled like espresso and entitlement, and where Benjamin Hargrove, yes, the Benjamin, heir to the founding partner, ruled like a king on a throne of case files. He was 32, all sharp angles and sharper suits, with eyes like winter steel that could freeze a witness mid-sentence. They called him the iceberg behind his back, because you'd only see the tip, the polished facade, until he sank you without warning. I walked into my interview with a forged recommendation from a professor I'd never met, nerves jangling like loose change in my pocket. "Mr. Ellis," he said, not looking up from his desk, "tell me why I shouldn't toss your resume in the shredder right now." Colin Ellis. That was me, the kid from a Rust Belt Ohio town where queerness was whispered like a curse, where my dad had disowned me at 17 for holding hands with the wrong boy at prom. I lied through my teeth, spinning tales of clerkships and moot court victories that sounded legit enough to fool a polygraph. He hired me on the spot, his gaze lingering just a second too long on my tie, like he was sizing up a deposition. My first week was a blur of coffee runs and redacting documents, but I watched him like a hawk. Benjamin lived for the win. Multimillion-dollar mergers, white-collar defenses that kept CEOs out of orange jumpsuits. He was gay. Everyone knew it, from the rainbow pin on his desk drawer to the way he'd shut down homophobic jokes with a single arched brow. But he armored himself in solitude, no partners, no flings that lasted past dawn. I saw my in. Get close, earn his trust, maybe even his heart. Not for love, not really. It was leverage. If I could crack that shell, I'd have a ticket to partnership tracks, recommendations that open doors to firms in DC or LA. Hell, maybe I'd expose the firm's dirty laundry, those backroom deals with lobbyists that I'd overheard on my second day, and catapult myself into something real, something that proved I wasn't the failure my family said I was. So I started small. Late nights in the office. I'd linger after everyone else fled to their lofts in Chelsea or Soho. "Need anything else, Ben?" I'd ask, casual as a summer breeze, dropping the formality because I knew it irked him. In a good way, I hoped. He'd glance up, those blue eyes softening just a fraction. "Just the Kessler brief revisions, Colin. And it's Benjamin." But he'd smile, faint as fog lifting off the Hudson. I brought him bagels from Zabbers, the kind with locks that he pretended not to crave, and playlists of Springsteen bootlegs because I'd accidentally overheard him humming Thunder Road during a deposition. It was calculated affection, every gesture a chess move. By month 3, we were grabbing drinks at the Dead Rabbit after closing arguments, him nursing a whiskey neat while I nursed my secrets. "You're different," he told me one sticky July evening, the bar's amber lights casting shadows that made his jawline look carved from marble. We were 3 Manhattans in the kind with rye that burned going down. Most assistants bolt after the first all-nighter. "You stick." I leaned in, heart pounding not from the booze but from the thrill of the con, and brushed my fingers against his on the sticky tabletop. "Guess I like the view from the trenches." His laugh was rare, low and rumbling like thunder over the East River, and when he didn't pull away, I knew I'd hooked him. Fall turned to winter, and the pretending deepened. We'd walk home together sometimes, my cramped walk-up in Hell's Kitchen just blocks from his sleek condo overlooking Central Park. He'd talk, God, how he'd open up, about the pressure of the name, the father who died in a boardroom brawl with rivals, leaving Benjamin to inherit a legacy laced with expectations. "They want me to be unbreakable," he said one night, snowflakes catching in his hair like confetti from a failed parade. I wrapped my arm around his waist, pulling him close under the glow of holiday lights strung across 9th Avenue. You're more than that, Ben. You're the guy who fights for the underdog, even when the odds are stacked. Lies wrapped in half-truths, but they tasted sweet on my tongue. By New Year's, we were official, stealing kisses in the elevator after firm parties. His hand firm on the small of my back like an anchor in a storm. The office buzzed. Whispers of favoritism, jealous side eyes from the paralegals. But I didn't care. I was rising. Lead on junior briefs, invites to client dinners at Per Se. Benjamin trusted me with everything. Passwords to his calendar, drafts of his memoirish notes on cases that could topple senators. And damn if it didn't start feeling real. His touch, tentative at first, then hungry, like he'd been starving in that ivory tower. Mornings tangled in his sheets, sunlight filtering through blinds to paint stripes on his bare back. I'd trace them with my eyes, memorizing the map of his scars, the ones from a childhood spent hiding who he was in prep schools upstate. But guilt gnawed at me like rats in the subway tunnels. Late at night, when he'd murmur, "I love you," into my collarbone, I'd stare at the ceiling fans whirring like accusations. This wasn't supposed to happen. I was in it for the game, for the proof that a queer kid from nowhere could outsmart the system. Yet there he was, thawing under my touch, sharing dreams of starting a pro bono wing for LGBTQ plus clients, fighting the injustices that had chased him from Ohio to Yale. We'd argue over it sometimes, passionately, in his kitchen over takeout from Joe's Pizza. Me pushing for bolder moves, him cautioning restraint. "You're my fire, Colin," he'd say, pulling me onto the counter, his lips brushing mine. "Don't let me burn out." Spring brought the first real crack. A case landed on his desk, defending a tech mogul accused of funneling bribes to politicians, the kind of slime that made my stomach turn. I dug into the files, helping as always, but what I found chilled me. The firm was complicit, Hargrove blood money greasing palms from Albany to D.C. I confronted him in the file room, fluorescent buzz overhead like a swarm of doubts. "This guy's guilty, Ben. We're selling our souls for a paycheck." He paced, tie loosened, that cold mask slipping back. "It's the job, Colin. We win or we fade." His words stung, a betrayal of the man I'd pretended to love but was starting to need. I stormed out, slamming the door on my way to the stairwell, tears hot on my cheeks. That night, he showed up at my door with roses from the corner bodega, eyes pleading. "Don't leave me over this. Please." I let him in, let him hold me, because walking away meant losing everything. The career, the cover, and yeah, maybe him too. Summer sizzled, and so did we. Vacations stolen in the Hamptons. His family's old beach house with salt air and crashing waves. We'd run barefoot on the dunes at dawn, laughing like idiots, his hand in mine feeling less like a prop and more like home. But the lies piled up. I dodged questions about my past, fabricating a silver spoon upbringing to match his world. "Your folks must be proud," he'd say over clambakes. And I'd nod, throat tight, remembering the last postcard from my mom. "We pray for you, son. Come back to Jesus." He never pressed, but I saw the flicker in his eyes. The unspoken "who are you?" Really? By fall of year 2, the pretending was a full-time job. I loved him. God help me, I did. The way he'd hum old Sinatra tunes while shaving, foam on his chin like a boy playing dress-up. The quiet pride when he won a landmark case for a trans client. Tears in his eyes as we toasted in a dive bar off Times Square. But the firm's shadows loomed larger. Whispers of an internal audit, rumors of whistleblowers. I started squirreling away evidence, emails, ledgers, tucked in a hidden drive on my laptop. It was my escape hatch, my ticket out. If it blew up, I'd ride the wave to a new life, leaving Benjamin to the fallout. Betrayal, cold and calculated, just like him. We hit the holidays like a freight train. Firm party at the Rainbow Room with chandeliers dripping light like liquid gold. Benjamin pulled me aside mid-toast, his breath warm against my ear. "Marry me, Colin. Not now, but soon. Build this with me." My heart seized, champagne flute trembling in my grip. I kissed him instead of answering, tasting victory and venom on his lips. That night, in the cab racing downtown, I confessed fragments. My real roots, the disownment, the hunger that drove me here. Not the full truth, not the plot, but enough to quiet the ghosts. He held me tighter, whispering promises into the dark. "We'll fight it all together." Year 3 dawned with promise and peril. Benjamin pushed for that pro bono arm, battling the senior partners in boardrooms that reeked of cigar smoke and old money. I stood by him, drafting proposals laced with fire, our late nights fueled by diner coffee and stolen glances. We moved in together, his condo with its wall of windows framing the park like a painting we owned. Mornings became rituals. Him brewing French press while I scrolled briefs on my tablet, our legs tangled under the breakfast bar. "You're my compass," he'd say, kissing my temple, and I'd smile, burying the knife I'd sharpened in my chest. But the audit loomed, a storm cloud over the skyline. Anonymous tips trickled in, leaks from disgruntled clerks, and fingers pointed everywhere. Benjamin grew distant, the iceberg reforming, poring over files till dawn with shadows under his eyes. "It's nothing," he'd insist when I'd press, but I'd catch him staring at me across the dinner table, searching for cracks. Guilt twisted like a pretzel in my gut. The evidence drive burned a hole in my pocket. I'd almost deleted it a dozen times, fingers hovering over the trash icon while he slept beside me. Then came the betrayal, not mine but his, or what felt like it. A rival firm poached one of our top litigators, and in the scramble, I overheard Benjamin on a call in his office, voice low and lethal. "Handle it quietly. No traces." My blood ran cold. Was he covering tracks, silencing the audit? I confronted him that night in our living room, city lights twinkling mockingly below. "Are you dirty, Ben? Tell me you're not part of this rot." He recoiled like I'd slapped him, face paling under the lamp's glow. "How can you even ask? After everything?" We yelled raw, ugly words that echoed off the walls, about trust, about the lies we'd both told to survive this city. He stormed out, slamming the door, and I collapsed on the couch, sobs racking me like fever chills. Hours later, he returned, flowers wilting in his fist, and we made up in the frantic way of the desperate, clinging like lifelines in a riptide. The fracture lingered, though, a hairline crack in marble. We threw ourselves into work, him defending a young activist sued for protesting conversion therapy camps. Ironic, given my ghosts, and me shadowing every move. Success came in waves. The case won, headlines in the Times praising Hargrove's heart. We celebrated at our favorite spot, a hidden jazz joint in the village where saxophones wailed like lost souls. "To us," he toasted, clinking glasses, his free hand squeezing mine under the table. I echoed it, throat tight, wondering how long I could keep the dam from breaking. Winter gripped the city in iron fists, snow piling like unanswered questions. Benjamin's birthday fell on a blizzard, trapping us indoors with takeout Thai and a bottle of Napa Cab. We talked deep into the night, dreams of adopting someday, of a house in the Hudson Valley with a yard for dogs and kids. "You make me believe in second chances," he said, tracing my palm with his thumb. I believed it too, in that hazy glow, until my phone buzzed at 3 a.m. An email from an anonymous source, attachments spilling the firm's full sins, offshore accounts, coerced testimonies. It was my cue, the whistleblower's goldmine. I forwarded it to my hidden contact at the DOJ, anonymous as a shadow, heart hammering like a gavel. The fallout hit like a nor'easter. Raids on the office, headlines screaming, "Hargrove scandal rocks Wall Street." Benjamin was blindsided, called into federal questioning while I played the loyal assistant, fetching his dry cleaning and dodging reporters like roaches. Inside, I was unraveling, elation at the justice warring with terror at the cost. He'd lose everything, the firm, his name, maybe his license. And me? I'd slip away, the ghost who pulled the strings, resume in hand for a fresh start in Boston or Philly. He came home shattered that first night, suit rumpled, eyes hollow as abandoned subway tracks. "They think I'm involved, Colin." Me. I held him on the foyer floor, rocking like a child, murmuring nonsense about innocence and appeals. But as he wept into my shirt, something shifted. A real love, fierce and unbidden, clawing through the pretense. I wanted to confess, to burn the drive and beg forgiveness, but the words stuck like tar. Weeks blurred into a siege. Depositions, lawyers lawyering their lawyers, the firm fracturing like glass under pressure. Benjamin withdrew, the cold returning tenfold, snapping at interns and canceling dinners. Our bed became a battlefield of silences, touches turning tentative. "Do you still love me?" I asked one dawn, city stirring below like a beast waking. He rolled away, back a wall of muscle and misery. I don't know who to trust anymore. The knife twisted deeper. Then the accident. It was a Thursday in late March, skies bruised with the promise of rain. We'd argued again, stupidly over a misplaced file that wasn't misplaced at all, and he grabbed his keys, jaw set. I need air, Colin. Just space. I followed him to the garage, pleading through the elevator's hum. Ben, wait. Talk to me. He slid into the Audi, engine growling to life, but paused at the ramp, window down. I love you, even if this breaks us. And then he was gone, taillights fading into the underbelly of the city. I paced the condo like a caged wolf, phone silent as a grave. 2 hours later, it rang. Unknown number. Voice clipped. Mr. Ellis? There's been an incident. Mr. Hargrove. He's at Mount Sinai. Cab involved, hit and run. The world tilted, bile rising. I bolted, hailing a cab in the drizzle, heart a drumbeat of dread. Traffic crawled, horns blaring accusations, and all I could think was my fault. My lies, my everything. The ER was a fluorescent hell. Beeps and moans, the sharp tang of antiseptic. A nurse led me to his room, curtains parting like a curtain call to tragedy. There he was, hooked to monitors, face swollen and bruised, a gash above his eye stitched like a Frankenstein scar. Concussion, broken ribs, the doctor murmured. Lucky to be alive. Benjamin stirred as I approached, eyes fluttering open. Those blue depths, clouded now with pain and pills. Colin, he croaked, hand twitching toward mine. I took it, collapsing into the chair, tears blurring the foredrip. I'm here. God, Ben, I'm so sorry. He squeezed weakly, gaze sharpening like a blade honing in. The accident. Cab came out of nowhere. Driver fled. His voice cracked, raw as exposed wire. But that's not why I'm here, is it? I saw your laptop, Colin. Before I left. The files, the DOJ forwards. It was you. The room spun, monitors beeping a frantic staccato. Denial surged, hot and desperate. Ben, no, it's not what you think. I was protecting us, exposing the rot so we could. He cut me off with a bitter laugh, wincing as it jarred his ribs. Protecting us? 3 years, and it was all a setup. The charm, the love. You played me like a mark in discovery. I crumpled, words tumbling like debris from a collapse. At first, yes, I needed the break, the proof I could make it. But it changed, Ben. You changed me. I love you, really, truly. Please. His eyes, those winter blues, iced over completely now, colder than any courtroom glare. Get out, before I call security. Nurses hovered, sensing the storm, but I lingered, begging with whispers and touches he flinched from. Security came anyway, gentle but firm, escorting me to the hall where rain lashed the windows like judgment. The next days were purgatory. I haunted the hospital lobby, coffee cold in styrofoam, dodging his partner's calls and the press sniffing for blood. Benjamin refused visitors. His sister, cool, collected Elena from Boston, barring the door with a look that said you broke him. I holed up in the condo, our condo, surrounded by ghosts. His ties in the closet, my playlists on the stereo mocking me with dancing in the dark. Sleep evaded, chased by replays. The screech, the blood, his whisper of love turned to ash. The scandal exploded fully then, front page fodder from the Post to the Gray Lady. Hargrove and associates shuttered overnight, partners scattering like rats from a sinking ship. Benjamin emerged from the hospital a week later, ribs taped, spirit fractured, issuing a statement through Elena. Full cooperation with authorities, restitution for victims. No charges for him, he was clean, a pawn in his father's old games. But the name was tainted, the legacy dust. He moved out while I was at a deposition. Ironic that, and left a note on the counter, handwriting precise as ever. The lease is yours. Sell the furniture if you want. Don't contact me, ever. I crumpled it, howled into the empty space, the city indifferent below. My contact at the DOJ called commendation, a job offer in their public integrity unit. Justice served, career launched. But victory tasted like cardboard, dry and choking. Months dragged, spring blooming into a merciless summer. I threw myself into the new gig, prosecuting the corrupt with a fervor that masked the hollow in my chest. New York pulsed on. Pride parades with rainbow rivers of bodies, Yankees games roaring in the Bronx. But I wandered like a specter, haunts in every coffee shop, every skyline silhouette. Friends, real ones now, from activist circles urged therapy dates, but I couldn't. Not when his face haunted my dreams. That final accusation etching deeper than any scar. Fall brought the trial of the firm's old guard. A circus in federal court downtown. I testified anonymously at first, but Benjamin's name came up, vindicated, heroic in his silence. Whispers reached me. He'd started a solo practice upstate, pro bono heavy, fighting for the marginalized with a quiet fire. No ring on his finger, no new love in the tabloids. Elena cornered me once, post-hearing, in a courthouse cafe smelling of burnt toast. He asks about you, in the quiet moments, but he's healing slowly. Her eyes, so like his, held no forgiveness, only a weary pity. You destroyed something beautiful, Colin. Can you live with that? Couldn't, not really. The accident replayed endlessly. If I'd confessed sooner, burned the drive, maybe he'd have swerved, maybe we'd have fought it out instead of fracturing. Betrayal's echo chamber amplified every what if, every lie I'd layered like bricks in a wall that crumbled anyway. I quit the DOJ after a year, the winds feeling Pyrrhic, and drifted west, to San Francisco, where fog rolled in like absolution and queer spaces thrived without the East Coast edge. There, in a cramped office above a Castro bookstore, I hung my shingle. Ellis Advocacy, small but mine, taking cases for kids like 17-year-old me. Disowned, displaced, daring to love. Clients came. A barista suing his landlord for slurs. A teacher battling conversion therapy holdouts. Their stories mirrored mine, jagged edges of pain and resilience. And in helping them, I chipped at my own armor. Letters arrived sometimes, forwarded from New York. Thank yous from strangers touched by the Hargrove fallout. Reforms I'd sparked. One, and signed, in familiar script. Saw your name in the bar journal. Proud of the man you're becoming. Be kind to yourself. Be. It undid me, that olive branch from the ruins. I wrote back, pouring out the unsaid. The pretending that bloomed real. The terror of losing him. The accident scar on my soul. No address, just a P.O. box upstate. But I sent it anyway. A confession sealed with hope's fragile wax. Winter found me at a holiday fair in Golden Gate Park. Mulled wine steaming in the chill. Strings of lights twinkling like stars reclaimed. A figure approached through the crowd. Tall, coat dusted with frost. Blue eyes tentative under a wool cap. Benjamin. Older, lines etched deeper. But that smile, faint and thawing, breaking through. Colin. My name on his lips, soft as snowfall. We talked, halting at first over cider and carols, about the years, the cases, the quiet rebuilds. No grand gestures, no cinematic sweep. Just two men, scarred and standing, sharing truths under the evergreens. I hated you, he admitted, steam curling from his mug. Then I missed you. Then I understood. Sort of. I nodded, throat tight. I never stopped loving you, even in the lie. His hand found mine, tentative, then sure, fingers lacing like puzzle pieces long lost. We didn't rush. Dinners in the Mission, walks along the Embarcadero where sea lions barked like old friends. He was consulting now, remote from a cabin in the Sierras, bridging worlds with his quiet advocacy. I showed him my office, the kids' drawings pinned to the wall like badges of grace. This is what you gave me, I said one evening, city lights sprawling below like a forgiven map. A chance to be human. Forgiveness isn't a thunderclap. It's rain, steady and softening the earth. We rebuilt slow. Weekends in the redwoods, arguments over takeout that ended in laughter, not slams. No proposals yet, no rings, but a promise hummed in the spaces between. Second chances, earned in the grit of days. 3 years as his assistant, pretending till the crash cracked it open. Now 2 years mending were something truer, flawed, fierce, American as apple pie and protest marches. Love isn't a verdict. It's the appeal that keeps coming, long after the gavel falls. And in Benjamin's arms, under California stars sharp as New York ambitions, I finally believe we're winning.